Good morning and welcome to this UK India Business Council webinar on building a brand and marketing your product in India. My name is Stuart Muir. I am the Regional Business Advisor at the UK IBC and I will be moderating this session. Today our speakers will share advice and experience on marketing in India. This session is part of our Access India webinar series, a programme designed to support UK businesses through short online sessions on a variety of topics. Before we begin, I would like to familiarise you with the toolbox on the right-hand side of your screens. Just to let you know, we will have everyone on mute during the course of the webinar to keep any background noise to a minimum. But if you have a question, please drop it into the little bracket on the toolbox on the right, and where it says please type your question here, to send me your question, and it will be taken up during our Q&A session at the end. For now, to make sure you can all hear me clearly, could I please ask that you all use the raise your hand button on the toolbar? Could you please click that? Thank you. I would now like to welcome our two speakers for today, Lawrence Cronin and Jeremy Garbett, co-founders of Deeper Blue. With over 55 years' experience between them, they are ready to share some of this with you now. Welcome, gentlemen.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Stuart. This is Jeremy Garbett speaking, and I have my business partner, Lawrence, beside me. We are delighted to have the opportunity to really have a chat to you and perhaps give you some of our early insights on our particular journey as we build our brand out in India, a fabulous territory and a very powerful region to do business in, of course. Well, perhaps I'd better start, if I may, with a little bit of a background context on Deeper Blue. Our backgrounds, as Stuart has intimated, has come from the live event business, and we've been part of that live event landscape, if you wish, for nigh on 25, 30 odd years. Both Lawrence and I were part of the senior management team and indeed became CEOs, MDs of Jack Morton worldwide in our tenure there. And we had some wonderful experiences. They're a great team, a good agency, of course, and we delivered a number of large events around the globe. But a lot of our business was, frankly, business to business. 90% of our business was B2C and B2B. And what we felt, I guess, as we moved towards the back end of 2006 and 2007, that we both felt that actually there is a need to do something a little bit different, that actually our clients and their businesses were looking for something different. And for too long, the majority of live events had created sort of brilliant moments, but with kind of limited momentum, limited scope, if you wish, to prove absolute value. And we thought this through, and we wanted to, as I say, build an agency which had sustained engagement at its core, the ability to become, if you wish, partners with our clients, and to look at the longer term, to take their business audiences on a journey providing absolute value, getting to know them as they deliver more services, more perhaps products, and actually evolving their own brand. So our brand evolved out of that thinking, if you wish, out of the last 15, 20 odd years. And we had our opportunity in 2009, and we formed Deeper Blue. And since then, we wanted to make sure that we were nimble, putting our experience, if you wish, on the front line. Both Lawrence and myself are very keen to be with the clients and to sit with them, understand what they want, to truly get beyond the initial written brief, and to focus, as I say, on sustained engagement. And if I'd like to go on to the next slide, if I may, Stuart, thank you. I'll maybe go on a couple more slides. Thank you. And as I say, this focus on sustained engagement has led us to this piece called the Engagement Landscape. And I'll just talk briefly about this piece in front of us here. In the background, you'll see in grey the silo events that we have delivered, and indeed agencies today are delivering very well, where they have high impact, if you wish, on the axis on the left-hand side, the engagement axis, and they have good memorability, and they provide good advocacy, if you wish, for the audiences But actually there's then a decay of engagement, a decay of dollars, if you wish, because again, one needs to move ahead, and 6 months later or 12 months later, there is a repeat. Again, high engagement for a short period of time, and then a quick and rapid decay. We wanted to change this, and so we feel that the communications agency should actually have the ability to step back, do some what we call whiteboarding with our clients, and understand the bigger picture, so that we can actually pivotally connect and integrate their communications, some of which we'll do ourselves, design and deliver. Others, of course, other agencies would do, but we would be part of the, if you wish, the bigger picture, and helping our clients strategize and plan more carefully. And that keeps the engagement pot bubbling, keeps the engagement level high, and actually provides better value. The test, of course, is in measuring this properly and making sure that actually our processes dovetail brilliantly into delivering value. And on processes, I'll turn across to Lawrence.
If we just go to the next slide. So I think most companies, and certainly most agencies, have a process. The trouble is that processes tend to linger in the corner of an office and actually gather dust. Our process is one that we use every day of our lives. It begins with insight. Before we do any work with any client, we actually undertake a period of knowledge gathering, really getting under the skin of our clients and really understanding their business objectives and what makes them tick. From then, we can design a solution that works for them and works for the long term. We will then deliver that, and part of our process is to deliver events, live communications, and digital programs. Well, what we will also do is always measure the impact of what we do. And that impact is something that we understand right at the outset of any project, to make sure we understand what the baseline is, so then we can see what the impact is thereafter. That process is a continuous process where we engage people over the long term. We call it sustained engagement. And if you just go to the next slide, over the last 5 years, we've actually been doing this with a number of clients, principally in the automotive world, but really we're after fewer clients and super serving them. The good news for us is many of these clients are international, and indeed, as we progressed our Indian opportunity, we've been talking to a number of these to open up new avenues of opportunity. But I think right now, let us have a look at some of the work and some of the things that we've been doing. And we've got a short video to share with you. Stuart, I'm not sure whether anybody can hear the sound on this. Is it coming through? Okay, without the sound, I think maybe it's best for us to move forward into the next slide, if that's okay. So, above and beyond everything else, we call ourselves change specialists. What we actually do is shape and deliver messages for many of our companies so that we really make sure that individuals are inspired by the brand they're working for, inspired by what it is we're talking about. We actually help to motivate teams, but fundamentally, we are all about helping businesses to grow. We just go on to the next slide. And the good news for us is that we've actually, over the last 5 years, become one of Europe's fastest growing agencies. Last year, we were recognized by the Sunday Times Tech Track 100, one of the top 100 fastest growing private companies. And we've also signed up most recently to the government-run Growth Accelerator program. So we've done well, but with all of that experience, with all of our successes so far, the one thing we did want to do is to make sure that we looked beyond Europe. And that's why we turned our attention to Asia. And specifically, we thought it was time to shape our offer for India. We can just go to the next slide.
Yeah, thanks. That's probably 7 or 8 minutes of deeper blue, really, isn't it? I mean, we just wanted to give you the context, and apologies about obviously not hearing the video, but I think you're getting a grasp, one hopes, of our offer, and of course you can go onto our website to get that video as well. Look, how Asia came about, and you know, we've been drilled pretty sufficiently as MDs of the Jack Morton business to make sure that any business plan needs to be balanced, and if you can balance it, of course, both by sector, it is best also to balance it by geography. And in our initial setup back in 2009, Lawrence and I put a 10-year plan together, nothing unusual in that, but we did say that during the midterm of it, 5 or 6 years in, we'd love to have an opportunity in Asia, and in particular India, if it came about. The reason being that we heard fantastic reports already in the 2000s about India's growth, live events and communication sector. It wasn't a hidden secret at all, and we'd actually done quite a bit of business in India whilst running Jack Morton. We'd done 2 or 3 large projects for the IT sector, one of which was for IBM, actually based in Bangalore, looking after a large, what they called town hall meeting. So we had some experience already there, and we knew the passion and enthusiasm to connect and communicate out there. So we put a point in the sand saying we'd love to have some kind of presence out there. And then we got going with our own business, frankly, and got to a better commercial situation. We built our business in Europe. And during the years 2012 and 2013, I met up with a guy called Prashant Saha. And if you wouldn't mind going on to the next slide, please. Prashant Saha, the beaming chap on the right-hand side in the pink shirt, and indeed his number 2, Anita, Prashant is the CEO and the founder of a company called Sim Global, an Indian company that look after association management events, basically large events which roll into India and indeed outbound to other parts of Asia. And he looks after all the visitor acquisition, the ticketing, the transfers for large seminars and association meetings, which sometimes can number up to 5, 6, 7, even 10,000 people. So it's big business there, and he's doing really well. And he's a very much an established and respected player in that market, if not the number 1 in that market now. He and I got on very well in the CEO Leadership Summit that I was chairing in Barcelona in those years. And I met up with him 2 or 3 times, and he knew about my interest in starting something in Asia and said, Jeremy, Lawrence, let's do something. I'm happy to be the co-founder, and I can help you accelerate into Asia and use our network and our facilities to do so and start up a deeper blue in Asia, which is exactly what we did. So if I'd like to move on really to the next slide. If I can have the next slide, great. It was very important as we approached Asia that we still kept the integrated focus that we had in Europe. It was no point in going into Asia just delivering events. It was really important for us that the process that Lawrence has spoken about was actually sustained in Asia, in India, in the region itself. Because, as I say, that there is no mileage in us becoming another Me Too agencies delivering events. So we focused on our process, and we know it's a longer-term outlook. So we have a plan for India, and starting very humbly, very carefully, quite cautiously, but using, of course, local talent. And if I'd like to move on to the next slide, please. As we had these conversations with Prashant and his team 18 months or so ago, both Lawrence and I undertook to go over there as regularly as we could to really undergo our own due diligence. If you wish, prosecuting our own process of gaining insight and intelligence. And so we went out, we spoke to a number of clients in Bangalore, all the main IT clients out there. We asked them a very simple question after introducing ourselves and thanking them for giving us a bit of time, is saying, what would you like from your agency for your coming era? What do you expect from an agency? So it was an interesting question, we thought, and we got some lovely answers and really interesting answers about, the kind of agency they think they need to support them. And, most of those answers really were saying deeper blue. And so with that wind in our sails, we thought, great, let's get going. Let's look at the business. We've looked at the business need. There is a need there. Let's get going. But we have to make sure that we build this properly with the right care.
Next slide. So at the conclusion of our period of insight gathering, we created our own SWOT, our own view of life in India. The strengths were very easy to understand. There was a really genuine interest from clients in what they heard about us as Deeper Blue and what we could offer. They understood and got our positioning, and it was felt that this was something that they wanted. They wanted to move away from delivery to a more strategic, integrated approach. Our other strength was we had a great partner in Sim Global. The opportunities were easy. A 24% growth in our sector year on year. It was unbelievable. You just don't get that anywhere else. The local talent was excellent, and we wanted to create something different. However, we knew that business is hard to set up and actually to undertake business in India. It is a weakness. It continues to be. It's tough. The bureaucracy and the corruption is something that we had to bear in mind. And also our ability to transfer 30-odd years of experience over here to a hugely energetic and enthusiastic local talent, but not one that necessarily has got the experience that we have. The threats were obvious. It would defocus our attention from Europe, but it was worthwhile. The long-term investment need, and we mean long-term, and whether or not all of the attention and the positive words that we were getting from clients would actually transfer into real work.
I'd like to move on to the next slide. I'm aware of the clock, so I'll just speed through this last few slides with Lawrence. Yeah, so we're looking for, obviously, sustainable growth with the DBA, Deeper Blue Asia entity. And, you know, the choice of partner we've just remarked on, we've done it the wrong way around. Normally, you do business in a region and you build up a track record of client relationships, of course, doing good work, and then you open an office. We've done it the wrong way around. We've gone to a trusted partner, first of all. We think we've got the right process. We believe we have the right process, and we know that the European model is working well. However, it's really important to have the right partner. So, and also to make sure that you recruit wisely with the best of the Indian market as well. So we've hired a team now. We're growing in number. We're up to 5 people now full-time in the last 4 months. We're using local experience, and of course we're making sure that we're embracing talented youngsters as well, particularly in the social media platforms.
Next slide. One of the things we have done is hired an extremely capable and experienced local Indian project manager. And again, this is the sort of insight that we need to make sure that we actually generate the enthusiasm and the knowledge on the ground. So Victor is a core part of our team. If we can just move on to the next slide. Tools, we need to keep things simple. We have a weekly activity sheet that we've put into place. We need to make sure that we show by example. We actually spend weeks out there with the local team, attending meetings with them, and they learn by being with us. We dedicate time and investment to visiting or then visiting the UK office here. We have a monthly knowledge sharing opportunity between our team and there. And we constantly look at tools to make sure that there is a fast activation process in terms of getting projects up and running, and opportunities are responded to quickly.
Okay, last on that little slide, if I may, if I have the next slide. So as you can see there, bluntly, there's 3 big topics: people, tools, and process. We've spoken about our process. We have one. We've got to be consistent both here in Europe and out in India. And we also need to make sure that it's right for the market. So it's taking the right process, but making sure it's shaped, if you wish, to the local customs, and actually making sure that the clients in India not just want the best of what's coming out of Europe, but actually, in a funny kind of way, what's in India we can take out back into Europe. So the Anglo-Indian, if you wish, opportunities for some of the blue chips is, we believe, quite significant. And it means that we can perhaps service one blue chip in 2 regions in the same way, and that, I think, has some appeal. Next slide, please. Okay, what's worked? This is simple. Go to the top of an organization, talk to the senior management, senior clients as high as possible, with great respect, wherever you are in the world. If you start with a lower, even indeed middle management sometimes, you don't necessarily get the breakthroughs. And our senior client teams do absolutely understand our offer and our process. So go to the top if you can in all cases. Global, slightly odd-sounding word. What does it mean? Well, it's really an expression of having global ideas, the ideas to have big thoughts and solutions for our clients, but actually making sure that it's locally implemented and delivered to the right standards. So there's a real merger, a blend, if you wish, of global and local. Making sure you network. India is a fascinating country, but it requires perseverance on talking hopefully knowledgeably, but making sure that you talk to everyone you feel is either an influencer or a decision maker. They love, quite rightly, to be communicated well to. They have an absolute love of the English language, sometimes better than the English themselves. PR is good. Make sure that the right story is celebrated. And make sure that, of course, when you talk about innovation, that it's right and proper for the marketplace. Don't just bewilder everybody with what you think is the latest stuff. And, you know, we believe of being polite, of being humble, we are only a boutique agency. Both Lawrence and I have come away from running a large, if you wish, super group agency. We're on our own. We have a small number of staff, and we want to make sure that we don't overreach, but we're very passionate about our process and our model, but we want to always listen before we actually talk ourselves. So a lot of listening goes on. Next slide.
One of the areas that we haven't done enough of yet, we're well aware of it, and it's something that we need to address, is the whole area of social media and digital connectivity. There's been a rapid growth in digital users across India. Facebook has over 100 million users. The internet itself has 300 million internet users and 160 million active social media users. So the spend in this area is going up dramatically, both in digital media spend and social media spend. And I think the core thing that we're taking from this is trust in a company and their brand is no longer dependent on company-controlled traditional mass channels, but on communities and peers, spreading the message across their own social network. So it's something that we need to address. We're not there yet, but we're well aware of it, and something that I think we should all be well aware of. So finally, next slide, please. We are in India because we see an opportunity to make a difference. We've deliberately called the company Deep Blue Asia, and in actual fact, we're up and running for the long term. What have we learned in our short period of time, our 18 months of the early hard steps? On the next slide, please. Well, what we've learned is that you need a simple and clear vision for your company. It's absolutely essential to get the partner right and get your partner right. Whatever you do, you need to make sure you've got positive access to the local network, and the partner and partnership allows you that access precisely. You need to understand just how important the administration and bureaucracy is. There are rules that you have to work within, and you have to make sure you've got the time and attention to ensure that you've got that administration right. As you begin to expand your team, we have spent a huge amount of time making sure that we have chosen our people wisely. And ultimately, we're in this for the long term. We made sure that we have the resources, the bandwidth, and indeed the attention of our focus and time for the long term. So those are some of the things that we've learnt, and we would now like to thank you and open the floor for questions.
Yes, and just as we thank you, we'd just like to say a bit of a thank you to UK IBC. We've been tracking UK IBC ever since we had the idea of starting out in India. So we spoke to the team here in London, got to know them well, and then one of our first trips out to India was to go and see the UK IBC burgeoning new office in Bangalore, and also we went to see UK IBC in Delhi as well. So, and they provided a great help, good insight, really interested in our little agency, and indeed we are now using the UK IBC offices in Bangalore as a marketing tool to meet clients incoming into India. So we'd like to say a thank you to the UK IBC team for helping support our endeavours in India. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lawrence, Jeremy, for your insightful presentation. I believe we have a few questions for speakers. If you have any more questions that you'd like to put up, please put them through and we'll see if we can answer them. If we can't get around to answering them all because we're running out of time, then what we can do is we'll try and answer them afterwards for you, either by email or by telephone call. So one of the first questions we've got is, can we get a copy of the slides, please? Gentlemen?
Yes, of course.
Of course you can, yes.
Excellent. Do you have plans on further expansion into cities like New Delhi and Mumbai?
Just a good question, and the answer is yes, we'd like to begin to spread our influence, if you wish, and open up. We do have the facility, and that's one of the great things about Sim Global, is that they're based in 7 other cities, main cities in India, and so we're already beginning to do quite a lot of business out of Delhi, out of their Delhi office, as well as, of course, our HQ in Bangalore. So our natural growth, if you wish, would be around those offices and presence in those other cities. But we need a little note of caution. Let's not bite off more than we can chew, and we need to make sure that Bangalore and indeed Delhi are growing in the right way before we set off and start up in other cities.
Okay. How should you view the 26, 27 states in India as separate entities or looking at the market as a whole?
It's a good question again. I think the one thing from our insight that we generated is India isn't just one homogenous country. It is made up, quite rightly, of a number of states and a number of different cultures and languages within that. In a way, it's a bit like Europe. You can't view Europe as a single entity. And I think certainly many of the programs we've done here have been a good sort of learning model for India. So again, this is all about making sure that we gather the insight, we respect the knowledge that we gain, but we act appropriately. So certainly with Victor, as part of our armory there, he's done a huge number of India-based roadshows. And we understand from him and learn from him just how important it is that a roadshow isn't one roadshow touring India. It's a roadshow that needs to adapt accordingly to each and every city and part of India that it goes to. So I'm afraid we've learned the lesson from Europe. It's not one homogeneous unit, it's multiple units, and we need to respect, understand, and treat them as such as well.
Okay, that's very good. How many times did you have to visit India in order to get it going?
About 242 times. No, I'm joking. We actually visited India about 3. We had 3 main trips out, all of which we met clients. We were really passionately interested in meeting clients and suppliers to ensure that our process and our approach was right. So we had 3 separate trips out, each lasting about 7 or 8 days. 2 of them were straight into Bangalore, the other one was into Delhi. And then after that 3rd trip, we went into quite a lengthy legal process, which is called incorporation, where you need to obviously register your intent with the local authorities, make sure that you have the right partners around you, make sure that you are complying with all the legal statutory requirements of starting up a business with directors in India. And obviously we were doing a joint venture, an alliance, so we obviously had some help with that with our legal team from Sim Global. That took about 5.5 months to do, and it was completed just before Christmas last year.
We've got a couple very similar, actually. What was the single most difficult thing of entering the Indian market, and what is the single biggest challenge that you faced while entering India? So,
one of the things we learnt is a number of agencies, not dissimilar to us, from the UK, have gone out there in the belief that you can make the most of the sort of sector growth that I spoke about. So we're looking at a sector growth in terms of the live events and business communications of around 24% year on year. That's what we found out. And I think the fault with a number of companies is they've gone out to aggressively make the most of that, to sort of cash in on it. And I think our view is you simply can't go out there, can't go out to India to cash in on the opportunity, because what happens is you just crash and burn. And so probably the biggest thing that we learned, and we haven't learned, fortunately, through doing anything ourselves, but we understand, I think, that the way to treat India is over the long term, to respect it as an opportunity, but it isn't going to happen quickly. Things take far longer than you ever think it would do. And there is a reason for that, because we are building a brand which has got strong roots. And I think if you go in there to try and fly around and make some quick cash, you're going to fall over and have a trip. And that can be pretty nasty for you as a brand. And it's not really good for the reputation across India either. So that's one of the biggest things that we've learned. And I hope we continue to have that longer term outlook, because I think it will provide us with a more stable foundation for what we hope is a very progressive opportunity ahead of us.
Okay, I think we've just about squeezed some time in for one last question, I think. So what brands are you going to be focusing on while addressing the Indian market? Will you continue to focus on the auto sector, or are you also planning to enter in such sectors as FMCG?
Thank you. It's a good question, and one that we posed ourselves, 18 months ago. And the simple, honest answer is both. We want to do automotive because we're a specialist in that field, and we have capabilities here and specialisms in Europe that we can transfer and help learn and teach our team in India. And also, frankly, we want to get out of it, automotive and into other sectors as well, and grow those as well. So, the opportunity for us is in Bangalore and it's deliberate that we are starting in Bangalore. It's perhaps a softer city than most in India. It has a very much of an outward-looking face. It has a huge IT community in there as well. And so both Lawrence and I have, slightly in our dim, distant past, have got some good, strong connections with IT clients that we worked with in our Jack Morton era. And so, we would love the opportunity of just dusting down that expertise and using local skill sets to penetrate both, brands such as Dell and Microsoft and 5 or 6 others, pillar clients that we've already spoken to, IBM included. So we're targeting IT, but we're also targeting FMCG, and Diageo and Mars are definitely on our radar, as well as potentially pharma and indeed potentially financial services. So we need to be careful. We've only got finite resources. We can't throw everything at everything, so to speak. So we're looking at automotive in the first instance, and then going definitely into the IT world where we are with Bangalore, but very interested in 3 or 4 other sectors as well.
All right, thank you very much, Lawrence and Jeremy, for your presentation and your question and answers. Anyone that's got outstanding questions, we will answer them for you. We'll come back to you in a different manner. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope that the webinar has been valuable to you. If you have any feedback or comments about today's session, or a session that you'd like to see us do in the future, please feel free to get in touch. Once again, I would like to invite you to visit our website and check for the other webinars that we are organising as part of our Access India series. Thank you for joining us.